What is going on, everybody? Welcome back. Welcome to That Franchise Guy and another weekly roster update of my real 2018 roster, the number one community roster on Xbox One. I just want to say you guys have been great in the comments, liking the videos, everything, just giving me support. Wouldn't be able to do this without you guys, so thank you for that. Without further ado, let's get into it here, starting with the stars of the week. We got 2 stars, so Micah Hyde joining the likes of Casey Hayward as the second potentially underutilized defensive back out of Green Bay, comes over to Buffalo to become their starting free safety, really has free reign over that defense, leads the league in interceptions, making a ton of instinctive plays for that defense is a big piece of why that Buffalo team has overachieved this year. So Micah Hyde getting a +4 and a lot of respect this week. And then Juju Smith-Schuster's been the talk of the league this week. It's a +3, not really any surprise. I would expect he'll continue to go up a little bit this year, I should say. I would say he might end up 76, 77. I don't know if he has shown anything of crazy ceiling, but has been a really solid receiver and a spark for that offense that has actually underwhelmed to this point this year. I think he's their leading touchdown scorer. I could be wrong, though. And then moving to the other side here, the dud of the week, Trevor Siemian losing the starting job, and he has been borderline unwatchable. To start the year, he was doing his best, I would say, pre-2017 Alex Smith impression. Just seems to have fallen off a cliff, however, seems to have lost all of his confidence, not getting any protection either, which isn't helping, but he loses the starting job, and it seems that this is the end of the Trevor Siemian era in Denver. Meant to say era, but error perhaps works as well. And then let's go through the rest of the risers this week, starting in Baltimore with Alex Collins claiming the starting job with a big performance against Miami. Seems to show some pretty good burst. He was a guy a lot of people liked to actually emerge in Seattle, but he doesn't make the team there, comes over to Baltimore and is now the starter. So he gets a +4. If he continues to show what he did last week, obviously he's going to continue to rise, but also some question marks as a guy that was released earlier this year. For the Vikings, we got Jerick McKinnon going up +1. Definitely looks like a better running back than anything we've seen from him in the past. But keep in mind, he was a converted quarterback coming out of college, so perhaps he is sort of becoming comfortable as a running back. He's more or less taken that job from Latavius Murray. And then also for the Vikings, getting a +1 this week is Adam Thielen, who just might have top 5 hands as a receiver. Seems to catch everything thrown his way. A little bit of Brandon Marshall to his game in that way. Not an extreme athlete, but good enough to get by. And then also really good body awareness. You see him not just keeping his feet in bounds on the sideline, but really impressive ability to know where the first down is. You see it multiple times a game almost, where he'll catch a ball underneath and then twist and spin and bend in a way that just gets enough yardage. This guy's just a football player and continues to impress. And then moving up for, I believe, the 3rd week in a row is Darrell Williams, right tackle for the Panthers. Was a 4th-round pick several years ago, getting his first opportunity to start, and has been honestly one of the better right tackles in football this year. Not saying a lot considering the NFL situation with offensive line play, but definitely a diamond here for the Panthers, and Darrell Williams continues to play great. And then out of that same game, a guy who really is showing signs that he might be ready to emerge, and that is from Tampa Bay, Vernon Hargreaves. And he's had an up and down year, but his last 2 weeks have been really solid. He was one of the players of the game from that Panthers-Bucks game. Seems to have some confidence. He's only 22 years old, young corner, was, I believe, the 10th overall pick last year, so could continue to rise here. And then our next guy is kind of the opposite, a guy that's been in the league for a while, that is playing his best football probably at 30 years old, Mitch Unrein, defensive lineman for the Bears. Bears defense has been real tough, and Unrein up front, stopping the run, doing a great job. He goes up +3 this week. For the Saints, Sheldon Rankins had a very good week. He had like 7 QB pressures last week. He was a guy I loved coming out of the draft. Thought he was going to be a breakout candidate this year. I don't know if he's totally caught my attention yet, but he's starting to, obviously, with this +1 rank. He's a guy that behind what has been a pretty good Saints defense could continue to slowly break out here, creep into the low 80s. And then Deshaun Watson, so terrible. This year just sucks, doesn't it? So many injuries. So I give him the +2, was doing the roster. Literally as I'm making the roster, the news of the ACL comes out. So he'll be fine. He'll bounce back. ACLs these days, while they take you out, they don't seem to have any impact on your performance the next year. The surgery seems to be perfected at this point, but Deshaun Watson has been probably the funnest part of the NFL season. That Seattle game really was a breakout for me, just being able to do that in Seattle. And just the way he did it. Deep throws on the run, extending plays within the pocket, not just running around outside of it. Really buying Deshaun Watson. The Texans next year, if they can bounce back healthy, are going to be right in the thick of things for the Super Bowl now that they have their quarterback. For the Chargers, Dan Feeney goes up. He was the highest rated offensive lineman on PFF this week. This was his first start. So definitely a sign that Dan Feeney is a great player and is going to continue to grow when you come out that fast. So I would not be surprised if he gets rises in the next few weeks, assuming he continues to play so well. And then for the third week in a row, you've got Trevor Williams going up from this Chargers team, continues to play well. And then Desmond King had a great game against the Patriots. So both these guys getting +1 again. And I will say yet again that this Chargers coaching staff, whatever they're doing with these guys in the secondary, has been pretty incredible. Getting very good production out of really a bunch of dudes who are late round undrafted guys. Sticking in the secondary, going up for the Eagles is Jalen Mills. He was the NFC Defensive Player of the Week. But I will say he has had his struggles this year, so we're definitely not going to overreact to the one game. And it's also a situation where, A, they play the 49ers, and B, when you're playing corner behind that a pass rush like the Eagles have, I say that all the time on this channel, that pass rush is the #1 way to be a good corner if you don't have to cover for very long. So Jalen Mills definitely doing his part on this defense, but I'm not sure he's anything terribly special at this point. For the Lions, this team has really been pretty awful the last few weeks, but Graham Glasgow, perhaps a little diamond in the rough, playing good up front, second-year guard rather. And then also for Detroit going up is TJ Jones, who's quietly been a really good receiver for Matthew Stafford. Real nice hands, seems to make highlight reel catches every time I end up watching the Lions. So that is it for the risers this week. We got some fallers now, starting with the Miami Dolphins, who seem to be getting a faller every week, just really losing all of their punch, and it's this offensive line that's been just miserable. Jermon Bushrod, the faller this week, going down -1. We got a lot of offensive linemen falling this week. Not a huge surprise given how bad offensive line play has been this year. For the Colts, LaRaven Clark getting the start at right guard and was just miserable. Also for the Colts, LaRaven Clark going down -2, by the way. Dante Moncrief, I've never been a fan. I think I already dropped him a little bit earlier this year. He's still like an 80 in vanilla Madden, I believe, which is just a joke. I mean, he's never really shown it. He'll show flashes, but absolutely no consistency for Dante Moncrief. -2 again this week. I thought they should have traded Moncrief because he's a free agent, and I think they'd be pretty dumb to pay him what he's probably going to get on the open market. I imagine he'll get something close to what like Robert Woods got, which is just way too much for a Dante Moncrief. But moving on, right tackle for the Cowboys, La'el Collins. He's been good as a run blocker, but really miserable as a pass blocker. I tweeted out in the middle of that game that La'el Collins was single-handedly costing his team that game in about the second quarter. Clearly struggling as a tackle and in pass protection. And this is why I say in Madden, they need to have something in place for franchise mode. When you move a guard to a tackle, it's not a seamless transition. When I do my online franchises here, I have a rule where if you want to do that, you get -7 pass block and -10 awareness. It is that dramatic, and it is consistent across the board. We see it with a lot of good guards trying to play tackle. Just off the top of my head here, we had Lane Taylor try it, good left guard for the Packers. He struggled. Laramie Tunsil for the Dolphins has been really bad at left tackle. Kyle Long, one of the best linemen in all of football, tried to play right tackle knowing it would get him more money long term, and he couldn't do it. They had to move him back to guard. Tackle is right there with corner and quarterback as the hardest position in football, and there is a huge deficit in talent at this position right now in the NFL. And we actually have one more player this week at the tackle position going down, and it's the right tackle for the Broncos, Menelik Watson. Just terrible. The Broncos can't get any protection right now. They tried Barber, who was another example of a guard trying to play tackle, and it's not working. And then our very last faller this week is going to be Darian Stewart, who was essentially just rated too high. He's still a fine player, but he's definitely not playing near a superstar caliber like he was close to rated. So he actually comes down 3 this week. Still think he's fine, but he is now more of just a strong safety type, and I actually made the move here, moving Justin Simmons to free safety, as he's more of the deep guy, and Darian Stewart's going to be more in that TJ Ward hole that was left. He's still one of the hardest hitting safeties in the entire league. But that wraps up this week. Let me know, guys, if you think I'm missing guys. If you think there's players that are on the verge of breaking out, do comment below, and I'll be sure to pay attention when I watch the film this week. So cheers, everyone. Hope you enjoyed. Like the video if you did. We'll see you next time.